Welcome to the West Ada School Board meeting. It is Monday, October 24th, 2022 at 6 p.m. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
There was an amended agenda posted earlier this morning for an executive session.
Thank you. We'll need a motion then to accept the amended agenda. Do I have a motion? Trustee Benetti?
I move to accept the amended agenda.
Do we have a second? Trustee Bachman?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We'll now move to our superintendent update by Dr. Bubb.
Madam Chair, trustees, I just want to start off with some celebrations really quick. First, I want to say thank you to our teachers who were willing to take part in our conferences this last week. We think it's really valuable for our parents to be able to engage with our parents, with our teachers, talk about student learning, talk about progress, and so that was that opportunity this last week. I was able to attend some of those, and it was a really spectacular event for us to get back to. So thank you. And then I want to congratulate and best of luck to all of our teams. We have several teams across the district that are going to be heading into state playoffs, several teams that qualified for state playoffs, and so best of luck to all of them. This last Saturday I was able to attend the District 3 band competition at Boise State. I want to say congratulations to all of our West Ada School District bands that were present there. They did a tremendous job. And then on Friday, we started a couple years ago, we started a leadership summit with our student council and various leadership kids at the high school level. We were able to have a lady by the name of Sarah Wells come out, and she's a former Olympian, and came out and just talked to the kids about growth mindset and some of the different things that they can do as they work through challenges in life. And so it was just a spectacular day. All of our activities directors were there, and so they were able to, or our activities teachers, our SUCO teachers were there, and they held sessions and worked with the kids. And so just a great day for them to be able to collaborate, really talk about leadership, and make sure that the culture at our high schools is at the highest level that we can have it. And then, I guess that's last but not least. So I will now turn it over to Meridian High School. We have Veronica Lightning here, which might be the best name in the entire school district. I feel like you're some type of a superhero, which I think you are. Veronica Lightning is here to talk a little bit about student council over at Meridian High School.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you. He already introduced me. I'm Veronica Lightning, the student council advisor at Meridian High School. I just wanted to thank the board for allowing us to come to share what we've done so far this school year. I'm really proud of the Meridian Student Council so far. I think they've been rocking it. So I'm going to let Nathan Wall and Emily Smith, our president and vice president for our ASB, talk.
Thank you. Mrs. Lightning introduced us, and we're happy to be here. After elections, Nathan and I focused on returning our warrior culture to our school as COVID made this difficult district-wide. And we had the opportunity to help, after 3 years, bring back Warrior Day. And that is where we invite incoming freshmen, and they get to come to MHS for a day, and they get to tour the school and then meet each other and mingle with some clubs and activities that we offer, and so that they can get excited to join them the next year.
Yeah, and so with Warrior Day and other activities at the end of the year, it finally felt like we were kind of getting out of that pandemic and getting back to what high school is supposed to be like. And just throughout the pandemic, relationships between student council, administration, student council, and other clubs kind of been broken. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to build back those relationships and precedents that were lost through the pandemic. And so through these meetings, we set up a meeting with administration at the end of the year last year, and with that, we wanted to start working towards a great year next year, and we knew that it started with this year. And with that communication, we would not have been able to have the success we had this year without talking with the administration and figuring out what we wanted to do and what our goals were. And a really big part of that was our principal, Mrs. Lillenkamp, who's here with us tonight. And then moving on, one of the things we got to do over the summer, it was a really cool opportunity. We had the class of 1991. They had their 30-year reunion, and they reached out. Their organizer, Ryan Bateman, had reached out to myself, our principal, and our athletic director, and inquired about a tour. They want to come back and tour Meridian High School after so many years from being away. And I was able to help coordinate and plan that tour. And after kind of talking to Ryan and asking what they wanted to see, a tour route was planned and handouts were made. And And so, yeah, just being able to talk with those former alumni once we had them come into our schools was something that was really cool to kind of see what their experience was at Meridian and compare that with ours. And we were able to share with them, you know, what Meridian's like now. And it was just kind of cool to feel that connection, even though we were so far apart in age. We're tied together through the Meridian family. And then,
Yeah, so my aunt is actually one of the alumni of class of 91, and she couldn't attend the reunion, but it was funny talking to her about her classmates. And so after they had reached out, Nathan set up the tour date and time, and we reached out to our student council to get volunteers. And we ended up with 2 tour groups where it was super fun because it was an awesome experience where they got to reminisce in their memories, and we got to hear about the warrior traditions of the past. And it was an amazing opportunity for us and our council members.
yeah, and I'd just like to read an email that Ryan sent following the event, and just in his a thank you to us. And so he said, Nathan, you and your student council were absolutely fantastic to work with. They were organized, had a good plan, and arrived prepared with the tour route and handouts. This helped everything go smoothly, and I think we all really enjoyed hearing about your perspectives and experiences as you took us around your school, in that a previous forum was also our school. We covered a lot of ground in the time allotted. It was perfect. You all beamed with your pride for MHS and excitement to tell us what it's like now. If your council is representative of Meridian's best, your school has a bright future. Please express our appreciation to your council members for sacrificing the afternoon to provide such a wonderful tour for our alumni. I had so many thank me for getting this tour set up, but we could never have done it without you. It was truly a great act of service and experience that I, for one, will long cherish. And so this was just really, really cool experience that everyone involved, both the class 91 and our student council, just are going to remember forever. And just, you know, seeing that Meridian is a lot more than just a school; it's a family. And then as we kind of got through the summer and near the start of our school year, Emma and I kind of talked, and we realized that we need to get our student council together and have a retreat to kind of have team bonding, but also talk about leadership. And so we decided that'd be best to have a full day where in the morning we have a leadership session, and in the afternoon we kind of have a more fun barbecue, team bonding style of event. And so at the leadership training, we had everyone come to the school, and we kind of discussed, you know, what the upcoming year is going to look like, and what it means to be on student council and be that example in your school and be a student leader. And that was just really beneficial for everyone involved, and it kind of set the tone for this year and the success that we've had, and just, you know, the importance of consistently working towards the goals, and, you know, having that resilience to keep pushing forward and keep doing things that we need to be doing to make our school successful.
After the leadership portion of the retreat, we had a great night at a park, and we had a potluck barbecue, and we got to play some games, and it turned out amazing. We got to bond with our new and old members of student council, and some highlights were our games of Family Feud, where that afternoon we had pulled our student council for like the audience pool, and then some kickball, and we all enjoyed some friendly competition, and it was amazing. As the school year approached, we were tentative about advisory, and we talked with our administration, and any doubts that we had quickly diminished, because for our student council this time became very beneficial, as once we worked with our administration, we put our student council within the same class, and we used this time to build our school culture and just like lengthen our second period class. as our quarter 2 starts, every member of our student council is voluntarily allowing us to use their advisory on Mondays to continually meet throughout the rest of the year so that we can just start off our week really positively. And so we will do that. This sets us apart from other schools because we're always willing to sacrifice if it means benefiting our whole school, and we love our council members.
Yeah, and so like Emily said, advisory at first, we didn't really see any benefit, but being able to have that meeting every single day, not just every other day when we have our Suco class, was really helpful, especially we had our homecoming week that was a lot earlier than it had been in previous years, and just having the extra time, just the 20 minutes every day, it helped so much, and just being able to coordinate and stay connected every single day was a really big part of what we wanted to do with homecoming, and it helped it be such a big success this year. And then as we got through homecoming, it also has helped us to fulfill other responsibilities that we have as student leaders in our school.
With back to school starting and our Friday night lights kicking off, we really wanted a huge student section to come out and support. So as we entered our long-awaited undefeated season, this became a priority to us. And so we teamed up with our administration the first game to put on a tailgate where students could enjoy some free food, free t-shirts, and some games before kickoff. And it was super awesome, and everyone was so hyped, and it led to our first win.
Yeah, and like Emily said, with this game, a unique challenge about it was before school even started, just being that week 0 game, being early in the year. And so we knew that we were going to have to really push and advertise it and get out to students that, we need to show up, this is the first game of the year, and just let them know that it was even happening without having school as an avenue to advertise that. And so I decided that we needed to, give something out to students to encourage them to come to the game. And so I worked with my ASB secretary, Simon Merrill, and we were able to design and design t-shirts and reach out to local businesses and have them sponsor our shirts and give out 150 t-shirts to students at the tailgate at the game. And this was just something that was really cool, that we were like, hey, come out to the game, get a free t-shirt. And everyone was at the game, and we kind of were unified wearing the same shirt. And we've been able to do this a few other times throughout football season, just reaching out to the community and getting that community support. And it's been amazing to see the results of that and how the great success we've had also with our student section in the stands and with our team on the field.
As homecoming approached, we got to kick off homecoming with dress-up days, and it was tons of fun. We had lots of kids participate, and it fired up our students for Friday's game and Saturday's dance. One of our favorite dress-up days that we got to participate in that was super popular was the Adam Sandler Day, and it was a lot of fun and some goofy, funny times. So yeah.
Our homecoming parade has been a tradition that we've had at Meridian for a really long time, and it's really a special opportunity for us to reach out to our community and kind of get a chance to interact with members of the community that we don't usually get to talk to. And just for example, when we were planning the parade, we had to work with the City of Meridian, the Ada County Highway District, Meridian Police Department, including our SRO, Officer Dozier, as well as the clubs and sports within our school community. And it's just really cool to see all the clubs and sports come out and just come together as a school and kind of be unified as they make floats and walk in the parade. And then this year, I reached out to the mayor of Meridian, Mayor Simonson, and invited him out to come out to the parade, and I had the chance to walk around with him and introduce him to different clubs and sports. And it was something that he really enjoyed and was very appreciative that he had the chance to come out and see that. And he mentioned that not many high schools, he doesn't come out to many high school events, and so that's something that he really appreciated and that really connected our school with our community. And then another thing too is we were able to, or I had the chance to talk with some of the community members that live right across the street from our school, because our parade, we started in a neighborhood, and just some of them came outside with their families and were watching the parade get set up. And just in the conversations I was having with them, they were just so happy that like, we love Meridian. We're so glad that we live next to it. And it just, I think it's really a testament that Meridian, you know, it's not just bound within the walls of our school, but it outreaches into our whole community around us. And then another thing that we do for homecoming is our homecoming tailgate, and we make this really big before the game. We hand out free food, free hot dogs, yard games. We have a photo booth, and just a place for students to hang out and better get to know their fellow students and fans. And it's just really amazing to see how there's students who would never normally interact, and you see them together playing cornhole or getting together and, you know, talking, having food, and it just really brings that sense of community that's Meridian's all about. It just really brings it together.
Homecoming night, our stadium looked especially spirited thanks to our decorations committee. They made a poster for every varsity player and a variety of spirit posters. So our stadium could be filled with a totally hyped student section and amazing parents. And so it was super fun. Oh, sorry. And then at halftime, we got to see our amazing band and our dance team perform. And then we got to hear the announcement of our royalty. And so that was a lot of fun for parents and students.
Yeah. And then after the game, one of the things we've done for a long time at Meridian is the burning of the M. And this is where, after the game, we go out to the field behind the stadium, and we all gather around as students, and the players and the cheerleaders come out. And as the M is lit, the band plays the alma mater, and we all hold hands and sing that. And that's just something that's really a really cool tradition at Meridian, and it really makes everyone realize, you know, this is what it means to be a warrior. This is what Meridian High School is all about. And it really may seem small and insignificant, but it's really hard not to get emotional when you're out there, especially this year with it being our last year, senior year. Just as you're out there and we're seeing the M burn, and you feel that sense of camaraderie with your fellow students, and you're all kind of tied together through that, and just know that in years past, the students before you have done the same thing. And this year, it was a huge success. We had a huge turnout after the game to the burning of the M, and it was really cool because we had the chance to work with the Meridian Fire Department and the fire marshal on getting everything approved and making sure that all safety precautions were taken. And I know that this is a tradition that will continue to carry on at Meridian for many years to come.
As we enter the fall season, our favorite parts of student council get to come out, and we get to participate in amazing opportunities for community service. Some of these include Rake Up Meridian, a food drive volleyball game, the Festival of Trees, and our very popular Giving Tree, where we get to positively impact kids all around the district through generous parents and students. And so we're excited for those.
Yeah, we're so excited that our events and activities this year have been so successful, and that our student council has been willing to put in the work and be committed to building back that culture that we've lost over the past few years. And we hope to continue to build that culture throughout the year and honor the tradition that we have at Meridian High as we go throughout the rest of the year. And we're just grateful for this opportunity to speak to the board tonight, and we appreciate all the time that Dr. Bob and the board puts into our education at our school. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to echo the comments really quick. Ms. Lillenkamp and Ms. Lightning, thank you so much for your leadership at Meridian High School. I had the privilege of attending the football game, and it's evident that things are going in the right direction with just culture, and it's a big piece of what we do every single day, and that doesn't come overnight. I know there's a lot of long hours, including Fridays, which are supposed to be days off for teachers. We appreciate everything you guys do and putting that extra energy into our students. So thank you. All right. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about our activities and athletics fundraiser. I want to give some credit to Jason Moore. He has developed, obviously fundraising is part of what we do when we talk about our athletics and activities. And it's a big piece. And there's a lot of companies out there who assist us with this. And Jason kind of took on the leadership role and said, I'm going to come up with a fundraising opportunity that we can do on our own and really benefit our kids at the highest level. And so I want to say thank you to our patrons for supporting the West Ada Activities and Athletics fundraiser. Each of the activity and athletics programs in our middle school and high schools have the opportunity to sell a set amount of tickets at $100 each. All proceeds from the fundraisers stay with the school program that made the sale. So we're gonna play a video here so you guys can get a little bit more information on that, and then I'll bring Jason up.
Meridian is just one of the incredible sponsors of our Activities and Athletics fundraiser. This is a first ever for West Ada, and it's a chance to win amazing prizes like this Ford Bronco Sport. Each of our middle and high schools have a limited amount of $100 tickets for purchase. And here's what you really need to know. All proceeds from this fundraiser will stay with the school or program that made the sale. We'll have 7 different raffle drawings from now until April of next year, culminating in a grand prize drawing. For all the details and a complete list of prizes and drawing dates, visit westada.org/activities and athletics fundraiser. Take note, tickets will only be available for purchase until they are sold out. You can purchase tickets directly from all West Ada middle and high schools, including IFA and Renaissance. Good luck, and thank you for supporting our West Ada Activities and Athletics.
Chairman Frazier, trustees, and Dr. Bubb. Tonight we are here for our first drawing of the 22-23 extracurricular fundraiser. We've started off strong with our fundraiser and want our community to know that there's still tickets out there. We started with 7,600 tickets approximately, and we're down to about 6,500. Not only can you win the amazing prizes we're going to give away tonight, but in April we're going to give away a JCO travel trailer that's donated by Bish's, the Ford Bronco Sport, as you saw in that commercial, that was donated by Kendall Ford, and a Polaris Razor, which CM Company donated to us. So some amazing prizes. Tonight, we're going to give away 6 $250 gift certificates from off-the-field athletic training here in Meridian. These funds could be used for the elementary through high school package, which if you've ever been a part of off-the-field, bringing kids sports training, or as an adult, you can go in and do individual trainings with off-the-field. Taylor and those guys do a great job down there, and they're one of the leaders in sports and fitness training. So, Dr. Bubb, you want to help, and we'll select one ticket from each region, and that person will win this gift certificate.
Am I going in any particular order here?
No, should we start with the Patriots and work that way?
You're reading it?
Yep, I'll read it. I'll let you pick all of them and then I'll read them.
There's a lot of pressure.
Thank you.
This might be more exciting
So for the record, I'll read these and then we'll note them, and Dr. Bubb, you're gonna have to hang because we still have one more gift to give tonight. So from the Patriot region, Brinley Katznius is the winner, and I'll give you spelling on all those. From the Storm region, Deidre Mathis is the winner. From the Grizzly region is Emily Rich is the winner. From the Mustang region is Lisa Carlson is the winner. From the Warrior region, it is Greg and Christina Bishop. And from the Maverick region, it is Jana Soto. And so all those individuals won the $250 gift card. Our next prize is sponsored by Pro Image, that has stores in the Village, and they have stores down at the Boise Town Square Mall. They are graciously offer 2 tickets to any of the home Boise State football games, so they better jump on that quickly because I think we have 2 left, but you got a couple, or maybe 3. And the choice at 2 tickets to any Boise State basketball game. Also along with that is a $200 gift card that can be used at the Blue and Orange store or the Pro Image. So why don't we go? Are you kidding me? I'm not kidding you. I know. So we'll pick these.
As Dr. Bubb draws these last 2, we really want to thank as a board, Jason, for all your hard work and these amazing sponsors. These are phenomenal prizes. It's a wonderful fundraiser and just a great thing. Thank you so much.
Chairman Frazier, thank you. I appreciate that. We're going to make this thing a staple, and we're going to help to make things affordable for our kids. So. All right, and we'll read these. From the Patriot region, Leora McCloskey. From the Storm region, Scott Effinger. From the Grizzly region was Denise Gray. From the Mustang region was Pete Comstock. From the Warrior region is Misty Strong. And from the Maverick region was Tanya Bader. So we will get this information out and we'll notify these people. Thank you, and we'll see you in probably about 3 weeks.
Thank you again. That was great. All right, we don't have any patrons that signed up tonight for input. Is there anyone that would like the opportunity to speak tonight that didn't get a chance to sign up? Okay. We'll move forward then with our consent agenda. I'm open to a motion to approve our consent agenda. Trustee Benetti?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Trustee Bachland?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. With that, we'll move into our discussion, and we will start with Mr. Jonathan Gillen, our Chief Operations Officer. He's going to go over our audit presentation.
Good evening, Chair, Trustees, Dr. Bubb. So it's time for the really exciting portion. I know that you got to watch all of that, but it's for the audit presentation, so everybody get ready. Okay, so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to walk through, all of you have been given a copy of the audit, and so we're going to spend some time tonight. We're going to walk through that document. Kristen Diggs, who's a partner over at Ide Bailey, who is our manager on the job, will essentially be walking through the audit. I do want to take a moment before we get started and just give a couple of thank yous. So Donna Lee, who is here, she is our controller here for the district, spends an immense amount of time putting together the document that you have before you. And so audit process for us starts literally July 1st, and we're talking about it now. And so all of that time, a substantial chunk of that is spent working through the financial statements, preparing reconciliations, working with the staff, preparing stuff for the financial statements, getting prepped for when the auditors come. We love when they come out. They do spend 2 weeks with us, so it's a great opportunity to have some fun and visit with them, and they ask us lots of questions. And so a huge thank you goes to Donna. A lot of this work doesn't really get noticed, but it's extremely important for us and our financials. So Donna, thank you. I also want to say thank you to Kristen and to all the folks at Bailey. We work with a fantastic firm. And so they do a wonderful job. They are very well known both in the Valley, regionally, and across the U.S. So we're just lucky to be able to get to work with them. So what are we going to cover? We're going to cover what is an audit. I'm going to do that. Then Kristen's going to come up and she's going to chat. She's going to walk through audit process, the results, AU 260 letter. Sorry, it's very technical. Essentially, that's the audit letter. That'll be what's often called the governance letter associated with the process. Kristen will walk through that. Then I'm going to circle back up and I'm going to talk a little bit about financial data. And really what I'm going to tell you is there's going to be more financial data that's going to come out next month. And so I'll start talking about this year's budget and we'll start walking through that. So what is an audit and what is it not? I always like to start and have this kind of conversation. Sometimes when people think of what an audit is, they say, oh, Ida Bailey came in and they looked at everything you did for the whole year, every single thing. And the answer is no, they didn't. They roll tests of transactions, so they don't review everything. Their goal is to review transactions. They look at material transactions. They look at items that are big, things that could affect our financial statements. Their goal is to provide an opinion on the financial statements that they are free of material misstatement. I know, very accountant-y jargon, right? But essentially what that means is that we can issue that they're reliable and you could rely on them. Again, what it's not, they did not look at everything. I'll be honest, it kind of feels like it when they keep asking questions all the time. And I know Kristen really well, so I can mess with her. And so, but it is a lot of questions. They do a lot of inquiry. They do a great job. And so it feels like that, but essentially, again, they're not reviewing everything. And it is not a forensic review. And so some people think an audit is about, oh, they're looking for fraud. That's also not what they're looking for. If they start to identify things that would be concerning, they'll look at that. They'll continue to review and make sure that there's not. But their goal is not coming in here looking for fraud. Again, Kristen's going to kind of walk through the opinion in the report and what it is they do. And with that, I'll turn the time over to you.
All right. Gotta lower this a little bit. All right. So thank you, Jonathan, Donna, everyone. So the audit process, like Jonathan says, we actually started a little bit before July 1st. So this is a process that we start in the spring. One of the awesome things that we have with the management that you guys have at the district is they're talking to us all throughout the year, especially with all the COVID funding and all the complex changes that have come along with it in the past couple of years, what the requirements are and everything like that. Those are all discussions that we have all throughout the years to where when we get to the audit, we're not learning about stuff for the first time. We're able to provide feedback on what's allowed, what's not allowed, and all that. So the audit process is a process that starts in the spring. So we actually start this process in April-ish, and we come out in March and do preliminary testing over your federal funds. In the current year, with a significant amount of COVID funding that the district received in the current year, so if you look at the schedule of findings in question, the schedule of federal awards in the back of the report, you'll notice there's almost about $30 million that the district received in COVID funding. So because of that, in the current year, we did look at 4 separate programs, where last year was 3 programs that we looked at, and typically we only look at 2 programs for the district on average. We do take a risk-based approach, and so what this means is we're going to look at the programs that are riskier. What programs are new? What programs has the OMB, so basically the federal government, come in and said, these are the risky programs, we want you as auditors to take a look at them. We make a determination as to what programs we're going to take a look at. We take a look at if there were any findings in the prior year, if there was any change in management, that sort of thing, to determine, okay, what are the riskier programs we're going to look at. And then we wrap up this testing during the year-end audit. That takes place I guess this year it took place the beginning of September. So the same with the financial statement audit. We do a risk-based approach on that. Again, this is begun in the spring. And the testing involves, we go through and we confirm your significant cash balances, your investment balances, so your investments that you have with the LGIP. We're confirming your outstanding debt that you have. We're looking at analytics over your expenses. We're pulling samples. We're looking, at the significant capital asset additions with the construction that's going on. We're looking at those invoices and pay applications. And so based upon that, we're able to form an opinion on the financial statements. So like I said before, we did take a look at 4 separate programs in the current year, and these are the technical terms and how they show up in the schedule of federal expenditures. You probably know them under some different terms, so I'll try to translate a little bit. So the first one that you guys see, the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, these were the stipends that you guys give to teachers at the end of April. So the special education cluster, that's a program that you guys have had for years and years, and it comes up in the rotation that we test every couple years. The Coronavirus Education Stabilization Fund, this is ESSER. So the ESSER funds that you guys have had. And then the Coronavirus Emergency Connectivity Fund. So this is this grant that you guys got for devices. So there were some devices that you guys purchased that there's a component where typically in the past it's E-rate and it comes through, I believe, the state. There was a federal component this year because it came through one of the federal, through ARPA that came through. And so because of that, we had to take a look at that program in the current year. So based upon the 4 programs that we took a look at, we do have an unmodified opinion on the compliance of each of those different programs that we took a look at. So with each of them, there's certain compliance aspects and control aspects that we need to take a look at. So with that being said, we did have a control finding that we did have when we took a look at it. And it talks about it more in the report towards the back of it. And so basically what it was is that in the device program that you guys had, there was a max amount that was allowed to be reimbursed under that program. That amount, when it was submitted to us to review, was in excess of it. And so what they did was they were able to take it out of another program. So because we caught it as a result of our audit procedures, we were required under the standards to give a finding. So that's that one. So the hard part with it is that you guys got hit twice with this finding. So you got hit from the single audit perspective, and because it changed what fund it was recorded in the financial statements at the fund level, you got hit again from a financial statement perspective. So the finding where you see in the back of the report where it says there's 2 findings, it's the same finding. It's just the financial statement side and the single audit side. So I guess you get 2 for the price of 1 on that one. Okay. So then the financial statement audit, one of the things we like to call out as auditors is what the significant estimates are, just to make you aware of this, and we do talk about it in our governance letter as well. So the significant estimates that you guys have are your pension estimate, your OPEB estimate, both for your sick leave plan and your single employer plan, and then your self-insurance IBNR liability. One of the things I wanted to call out this year is in the pension estimate this year, it's actually sitting in an asset position where normally in the past it's been in a liability position. If you'll remember back to 2021 in June, the investment performance was doing a lot better than what it is doing now. So because of that, because that estimate is a year back, it'll probably switch to a liability position this next year when we do that estimate. As far as the significant transactions that took place in the current year, again, it's going to be COVID-related funding as your programs kind of wind down and everything. As I said before, there's almost $30 million that you guys received this year in COVID-related funding, and so as that starts to wind down, that'll have less of an impact. And then the other thing this year that was new is implementation of GASB 87. So so no longer are there operating leases and I guess capital leases, there's just leases. So before we had to go through and make a determination if something was going to be an operating lease or if it had to get brought on the books, everything gets brought on the books now. And so with that, you're going to see new lines in the financial statements where you're going to have a lease receivable for some of your cell tower leases. You're going to have a deferred inflow related to leases, a lease liability, and then you're going to have a right to use asset. So all that's associated with GASB 87 and the implementation of it. And this just affects your government-wide, so the first set of financials, not your fund financials, except for the receivable side. Based upon our testing, we were able to issue an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, and this is in pages 1 through 3 of the financial statements. And then on the internal control of our financial reporting, this was the finding again that we had over the single audit. So this is the same one. The other thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is our past adjustments. So as part of our procedures, we did have 2 past adjustments. There's no deficiency associated with them because this is a decision by management not to record the difference. One is related to recording the fair market value of the LGIP. So under the standards, what it says is you're supposed to record the LGIP at fair market value. However, it doesn't transact at that level. And so management takes a look at it each year and we just pass on it if we're required to. The other one is when we went through and recalculated the lease receivable, we came up with a different amount. It wasn't material at all. So we're just recognizing that there's a difference and moving on. So the AU 260 letter, so I think it's like a 4 or 5 page letter that you're gonna have after the audit report. So this is our governance letter. Basically, this is the audit in a nutshell. This talks about what the significant aspects of the audit were. It goes through what the significant estimates were, the adjustments that we had, the past adjustments that we had, any new standards that were implemented, and any modifications to the auditor's report. So because of the implementation of GASB 87, we did have to put an emphasis of a matter paragraph. So that's pretty standard when you have a new standard. And then if we had any disagreements with management or significant difficulties during the audit, we'd have the opportunity to talk about it here. We didn't. Management's great to work with, so we didn't have any issues. And then with that, if there's any questions. I know we went through it fast, so feel free to ask.
Are there any questions or comments? Trustee Benetti?
So I just jumped to mind when we were talking about the significant estimates when it came to the pension liabilities. The estimate that was used for inflation was somewhere around 2%, I recall, with a standard deviation of 1.5%. And that was for looking backward, obviously. Looking forward, how do we adjust it? Because obviously those numbers are going to go up significantly for next year. And to what degree will that have an impact on those estimates, which are already significant estimates, right?
So your pension liability or asset is calculated by actuaries, and so they go through what they think the different estimates are, what they think the adjustments need to be, and then what we do as audit procedures, we compare it with other plans and make sure it's in line. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean, in any given year, it could fluctuate significantly, so it just depends.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Trustee Bachman?
Can you briefly explain to me about the findings? Like, how do you feel that impacts the overall audit? And is there I know in some audits they separate findings between a major finding and a minor finding with these, and what category would these findings fall under?
Yep. So there's different levels of findings. So the most severe would be material noncompliance in regards to a single audit. So this is if you have a compliance area where they've just completely missed the boat on it, and it's just they are not compliant with that particular area. The next level down is material weakness and internal control. This is where we've run across multiple instances where this is coming up and the control is just not working. A significant deficiency, and that's what this is, a significant deficiency in internal control. That's where you've come across it, yeah, there was a hiccup in the control, but it doesn't seem to be conducive to the entire program. It's just something got missed. And so this is the lowest level of finding that there is, but it was large enough to where we did have to bring it up to management. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, next we will hear from Marcus Meyer. Oh, pardon me. Oh, pardon me. Next we will hear from Jonathan more about
Almost
the
done.
audit.
I know you were so excited. You don't want to miss out on the last slide. Okay,
I'm sorry.
So typically as part of the audit process, I'll also give you an update on how the financials are looking for this year. Because since we've kind of closed out last year, I'll talk a little about fund balance and where we ended, and then I'll start talking about how we look for 22-23. We're just not ready to do that yet. I got some initial data back from our IC submission at the state level. I'd like to spend a little bit more time with it. The first submission always has some corrections associated with it, so we're going to wait for the next submission. And then ideally, I'll be able to report back in December on that. So just know there'll be some more financial information to come, so get excited for that. Also, tonight, you're not actually approving or accepting the audit, so you still have some time to be able to review it. If you have some questions, the process will be that we'll have to schedule a special board meeting for you to actually approve it. It has to be into the State Department by the 10th of November, which just kind of falls in a gap between our board meetings. So, and with that, I can stand for any questions.
All right, any questions? Jonathan, thank you. And we're good. All right, now we will please hear from Marcus Myers, our Chief Academic Officer, regarding the Fall 2022 Academic Benchmark Data Review.
All right, good evening, Chair, Trustees, Dr. Bubb. It's my privilege to talk about our student learning as evidenced through our benchmark data, the work and efforts that went into it, and the celebration of success in West Ada for our staff and students. I do want to apologize if I appear distracted. The news of the class of 91 having their 30-year reunion still has me reeling, but we're going to get through that. It's going to be okay. I went by quick. With that, here we go. What I'm going to dive into really is our formative check of student understanding toward learning outcomes as measured by assessments that in West Ada we take a look at throughout the course of the year. It's our temperature check throughout the year before we get to the end of those summative assessments. Now in Idaho we have a number of summative assessments, one of those being the ISAT. The spring ISAT 2022 ISAT results were shared at a board summit presentation on August 4th of the beginning of this school year. It was around a data talk and current reality of where we're at, including the processes put into place with our benchmarking results to identify what we're going to do to improve those results and how we as a system will respond and adjust. I did link that as a live link within your agenda there, so if our patrons or trustees you would like to review that data information from those ISAT results, that is available through that link there. I do want to note though, when you review those ISAT results, and some new information was shared with us just as recently of last Friday as far as how West Ada compares to other districts in West Ada. And I want to read this specifically because it does talk about the celebration of the results and the processes by which we get there and what we do in West Ada to ensure high levels of learning for our students. So West Ada serves approximately 40,000 students, and we rank #1 against traditional school districts of 1,500 or more students in the state of Idaho. This is both in ELA and math as measured by the results on the ISAT test. This evidence of success in combination with our very low tax rate and a wide breadth of unique programs allows us to continue to conclude that West Ada is the best value in education, not only in Idaho, but regionally and nationally. And it is the process by which we got to those results that we'd like to celebrate with you this evening. Some of this is going to be a repeat of similar data presentations from before where I talk about the why and purpose around our benchmark assessments. And I repeat this not only for the good of the board, but also for our patrons so that they know the process by how we get there. So first of all, benchmark assessments are really what do we want our students to know? What are those priority standards in each of those content areas? And it's us taking a temperature or a data dip for the system. How are we doing as a system in responding to that? It's about process over product, which means we're identifying those processes by which are most effective to where we get there with those end results with ISAT testing. It's formative rather than summative, meaning that along the way we look at those formative results toward learning standards. It's intentional, which means that these are planned for. The professional development around the results and how we respond to the data is planned out over the course of the year through something called our professional learning plan as a district. It tells us what our students and adults need to know in order to perform better next time toward those guaranteed standards. And again, I want to remind the board and our patrons and trustees with us now that it's not about the test. It's about student learning as measured by, and I leave that blank because I'm going to go over a few different assessments that give us different results toward those priority standards in ELA and mathematics. And it's about one measure in time. I do want to note that this is one assessment on one day or over the course of a series of a few days for some students, And because of that, we want to be thoughtful about using that one measurement to make decisions for a child and our students as we move forward. And so in West Ada, we use multiple measurements. I just happen to be sharing one of those measurements with you today that's common across K-12. And then again, these are faces behind a number. Kid by kid, skill by skill, teacher by teacher, staff member by staff member, certified, classified, administrative teams, support teams, everybody involved with that number, which is really a student face within each of those percentages. And so I'm going to continue to bring us back to that lens as we move forward this evening. The first is the tool by which we measure our early literacy standards. These are early reading skills as identified in kindergarten through third grade through the ISIP, which is the tool that we use for IRI. All students in grades K-3 progress monitor using that tool every month in West Ada so that we can very accurately gauge student progress towards early literacy, since we know that research tells us early literacy is an indicator by third grade of a success further on in other content areas as well. I do want to note the trend data for this September. You can see that is the graph on the left-hand side and then a comparison graph for last year on the right-hand side, that our students incoming overall in K-3 into West Ada on that first initial assessment in September is higher than it's ever been in the past. Last year we were at 63% and at 79%. That being said, what that tells us is a couple of things. The first conclusion is that our students are coming to West Ada more prepared as kindergartners and moving forward that way. The second piece it means is that students are sustaining those skills over gaps of instruction over time, mainly summer break. What that spells out in education is really strong core instruction on behalf of our teachers and support teams within West Ada. And so that is a tremendous area of celebration, in that we are actually starting with the glass more than half full. In fact, tremendously more than half full with student learning. And you can see that that positive trend data moves upward. I do want to note for the board that this data, in order to meet timelines for due dates of documentation for the board, this data is about a week and a half old, knowing that we do collect that data every day in West Ada, and the last day for assessment in October is Monday the 31st. And so some of this data may vary, but trend data based off of this means it's only going to go up and improve even more so. And on my next data talk, I will gladly have that information for October on the most updated time frame for us. Now specifically, the last slide was about overall data within West Ada. I'm going to go grade level by grade level, kindergarten through third grade, using that same assessment tool, and also that measures our early literacy standards in grades K-3. Similar in kindergarten, I talked again about our students are coming to us more prepared for learning and more ready to learn. You can see by the results there in September and October that our students are moving forward very quickly toward those guaranteed standards. I also want to point out that a conclusion you can draw from this slide is the impact of full day kinder. I do want to know that per request of the board, we're going to have a conversation and celebration, including the data around full day kinder and the impact it's had on our learners. That is at the next board meeting, but this is a data indicator already where most of these assessments are taken toward the end of the month so that we have as much learning time as we have to take advantage of that learning time. And so what you see in that September data really is the vast majority of those students took this assessment at the end of the month, which means they had a full month of full day instruction under the wings before they took that assessment. And that shows a tremendous amount of impact just on that one, on that one systemic change. Same thing in first grade here. You can see the change between September and October is less of a percentage-wise, but in comparison to last year, our students took that transition from kindergarten to first grade more successfully and holding on to those essential skills. Similarly in second grade, our initial beginning of the year data is spectacular. And that is quite a celebration of our students who are holding on to those essential skills, moving on with early literacy. And you can see that that trend point is where we were at in December and January of last school year. We're there now in September and October of this school year. Third grade presents similar results as far as the evidence for early literacy through ISIP and our IRI. Quite a celebration of that upward trend, knowing if that trend line continues, and it will continue given the systems that we have in place, our students will be achieving greatly at the end of third grade, where they're learning to read and then transitioning to reading for understanding within those content areas. I'm changing assessments now to continue with the elementary conversation around ELA and how we measure English language arts and that literacy component. This is iReady, just some historical background behind iReady. The iReady ELA assessment was available to us last year as well. The benefit, and I'll get into this in just a little while with the ELA iReady assessment, this computer-based assessment toward priority standards, is that we now have this available 4th grade through high school. And so we have that same common assessment as we move through when we identify those standards. I want to talk a little bit about the color coding that you see here, in that the green represents students who have already met their grade level benchmark. So an example for that is that when you look at this, the 44% you see there are students in 4th and 5th grade at this time of the year who have already met their end of year goals in learning, okay? The yellow represents those students where it says 1 grade level below. Well, when you take this assessment at the beginning of the year, and it's a 5th grade benchmark, if I'm a 5th grader at the beginning of the year, I'm still learning those grade level standards, and so I should be 1 grade level behind, because I'm at the beginning of 5th grade, not at the end of my 5th grade year. And so at the beginning of the year, what we're really focused on is not only the green for enrichment and additional opportunities, but also that yellow to say, what do we need to do core instruction-wise to make sure that we're maintaining the greens, those students who are already at those standards are providing enrichment, and then what are we doing to make sure that core instruction is strong for that percentage of students who are right in that teachable zone for their grade levels. And then of course, intervention for students that you see there in the red, because we want to see that green increase, the yellow decrease, but also the yellow increase because of the movement of students coming from red, okay? Below it, what you can also see is placement by domain. What that means is that these are the domains of the ELA standards and domains where our standards are identified. And so what that shows is a similar graph and numbers of students. I do want to point out the high numbers of already proficient standards within phonological awareness and phonics. Phonological awareness at a 4th and 5th grade isn't tested on this test, which is why you see that such a large number of green there. But you can see as you move down that our students are holding on to that core content understanding in ALA as they progress from one measurement in IRI to the next measurement within iReady. I also want to point out the little note I made to the side that in spring of 2022, our ISAT in 4th and 5th grade, the average proficiency was 64%. The iReady correlation for spring of 2023 was 79%. And so that's that correlation that we're using to say where are students toward that progress and what can we do to make sure that we're meeting those grade level standards within our instruction. Similar here in 6A ELA standards. Again, this assessment is aligning with grade level standards appropriate for 6th through 8th grade. You can see similar results, again, where the green are students in 6th through 8th grade who have already met those grade level standards. The yellow are those who are right at that instructional area. And then the red are ones that we watch very closely to make improvements and meet interventions, and meet with an intervention. And this is a celebration here. In high school, we have this assessment as well. And so it travels with them all the way through their educational career in West Ada toward ELA and math standards. Again, using the same common assessments so that we're measuring apples to apples toward those guaranteed standards that you can see. Our teachers have the opportunity to click on those placement by domains, and it will tell them exactly what students know what skills and do not know other skills. We'll group them accordingly so they can design instruction and intervention and enrichment according to those needs. I do want to address one piece within high school, though, is that 9 through 12 students in courses, those address standards through High School English 11. And so if you notice that the number of students tested are less than the number of enrolled high school students that we have in West Ada, that is the reason behind that number. So here are some celebrations in review. Growth in reading standards at every grade level in K3 is measured by ISIP. Starting the year at higher proficiencies in early literacy, that is a good sign that our students are holding on to those priority skills and that they're continuing that not only through the course of non-instructional times during the summertime, but because core instruction was so effective, they're holding on to those skills without losing them. Student cohorts are maintaining proficiency. That means that those groups of students who are going from grade level to grade level are maintaining that level of proficiency and building upon it as we move through. We use this data to continue to measure the impact of full day kinder. But again, those September levels of proficiency are an indicator that demonstrate that increased amount of instruction is working to build early literacy skills. Proficient skills assessed through ISIP continue to be proficient in 4.5 as measured by iReady. What I mean by that is what's happening on iReady is is demonstrating that those skills are being continued at an early grade level in early literacy on IRI. And then again, a celebration that in West Ada, we have a common 412 measurement of student progress towards standards that shows a strong correlation with spring ISAT results that give us a formative progress temperature check throughout the course of the year. And now we get to talk about mathematics. A similar celebration in mathematics is that we have a common tool to measure student progress and learning. So as students move from elementary to middle school to high school, that path of evidence and data that allowed us to provide the key instruction they need, the interventions and the enrichments, there is no delay in that when they move in between those levels. Again, the color coding works similarly with that, where 26%, which you can see in that green data K-5 overall, is those are students who have already met grade level standards. So for example, this might be a third grader who already knows in the very beginning of the year, in September when this assessment was taken, those end of year third grade results. And so as a classroom teacher and as a system, what we're decided is how do I differentiate for that additional enrichment opportunities for those students. The large bank of yellow there is exactly what we should see. Those are students who are at their instructional level, starting off the year one grade level below because they are one grade level below. We have 9 months of instruction to get them there. And then again, the opportunity to look at skill by skill through their placement by domain. Similar results in 6-8. This is also the value as I flip from slide to slide. You can see that common assessment holds value across our system because it will provide a historical data dip, not only for our system, but for individual students and cohorts along that way. And in 9-12, one data indicator I want to point out with this as far as the numbers of students who took the assessments is this includes students in courses, in standards addressing courses through about high school math 3. There's a couple of exceptions to that, but essentially through high school math 3. And so you could be a senior and take this assessment if you're in high school math 3 that way, which is why the numbers of students assessed varies. Here are some celebrations, and I want to make sure I point this out because it was huge. Okay, so I'm going to add this one on here, which is this. The percentage of our students in West Ada who finished the assessment and the systems by which we got kids there to take it in a timely and effective manner so that we're not taking a significant amount of instructional time was in the mid-90%. That being said, that means that we have a very accurate picture of what students can and cannot do within West Ada and how we respond. So I want you to know that in comparison to previous year's results, these results are indicators, are accurate indicators of where our students are at and what we need to do to make those adjustments to meet them at their instructional level, just because of the sheer number of students who took the assessment and making that data accurate. It is a common iReady tool that gives us K-12 mathematics pictures. This is new in West Ada, and we're very excited about it. This is a systemic piece where we think, well, how do we gauge the effectiveness of the system? This is it right here, and we can do it over time. So this conversation we're having together that we started last year, we're going to continue that conversation over the course of years, looking at that cohort as students grow. Similar to what I was able to show you with IRI, because we have had that assessment and in that system on a monthly progress check. The correlation of end-of-year results, that indicates an impact of core instruction, what we're doing well, what we're going to focus on, and what we're going to do as a system to improve. Again, the yellow provides an indicator of effective core instruction, and again, any teacher in West Ada can click on their school's data, pull up every student within that yellow, what they know and what they don't need to know in order to move forward. We are comparable and or above national norms in all grade levels. Part of using an assessment tool that does serve districts nationally over the course of millions of students is the opportunity to look at national data, and West Ada is above all of that. Where focus and additional resources were placed, gains were made, and that's what's very important. That is our own action research in West Ada, where we're saying, what are best practices, what are the resources associated with that, and what are we doing to impact learning there? Because we want those to continue, and then we want to reflect and analyze those systems that we need to make some revisions in. All right, these are our areas and the focus and the work so far. So the other half of this is the data, and then the second piece of that is what are we doing with it? So we know where students are learning and where they're not learning, so what are we doing as a system to address that? The first, I know that in the past I've talked about our systemic PLC processes. What that means is that our teaching and staff teams in West Ada, from a district level to every level in our elementary schools and everything in between, meet in collaborative teams to identify where are we based on the student evidence, what are we going to do next to impact that data, and how are we closely analyzing that to set short-term goals and establish processes by which by which help us improve. One process we do that through is our school success plans. These are yearly focus goals and short-term academic goals. And what I mean by focus goals is where are we pouring our resources? These are site-by-site plans, and we review these halfway through the year and then at the end of the school year together with building administrative teams, district academic leadership teams, and executive teams. And really what this means is a large group of people coming together to say, where are each of our schools toward processes of improvement? What does the data tell us about that? And what are we going to do to fix it? And here's the really great thing about this. We don't wait till the end of the year. It happens throughout the course of the year at every leadership institute, about every month and a half, and then formatively at mid-year through the school year. Again, I mentioned our collaborative teams meet monthly. Those are not the school-based collaborative teams. Those meet weekly on Wednesdays, and in more than that, to be honest with you. And, but together as a collaborative leadership team, along with instructional leadership, those teams meet together on a monthly basis. The goal of that is to eliminate barriers and provide resources so that schools can meet those goals. And it's about us serving schools together and us serving students together to be able to meet those needs. And a system of support. Let's see. End of year and benchmark data is available for all teachers and all students in the building. This is important for transparency, but also that mindset and that planning and culture behind these are our students together, and how do we respond together as a district and as a school to make sure that our students are succeeding. And to do that, you have to have clarity of student learning data across the board. And since our tool is common across the board, we can have common conversations now K-12. Progress reporting to parents and guardians after each benchmarking and grading period. We send out progress reports that's a reflection of this data in student-friendly, parent-friendly language so that we can start those conversations together around student learning as measured by these tools. And then lastly, I've talked about Leadership Institute in the past. This is us saying as a system, we know that building leadership and the great people that we have in buildings getting this work done, this is about a system of schools working together and how we respond to student needs. And so to do that, we very intentionally create timeframes where we sit together and analyze that data, review our plans, and review the processes by which we get there. Our last one was on October 5th, which was a district-wide professional learning day, and I know Dr. Bubb highlighted that at one of our meetings. That was a tremendous undertaking where we said, hey, here's what our data is telling us about student learning. What can we do together in West Ada where everybody learns on the same day together as an adult toward that system and what that looks like. Those sessions were very well attended by our certified and many of our classified staff, and they were very targeted toward the data you see here as far as identifying our needs. And then on November 29th is our next Leadership Institute where we as collaborative leaders will get together and focus on those improvements. Again, not waiting till the end of the school year. In fact, we don't wait till the end of the quarter. It happens frequently in West Ada. These are just photos of evidence I thought I would share with you. The first one is our leadership notebook. This is our communication tool by which we put our most important resources and supports for building principals. I know that's hard to see, but when you pull it up on the actual laptop screen, all the resources are in a one-stop shop for our building leaders that way. The one to the top right is an overview of our school success plans where we identify through a similar structure of support, what do we do to support the learning for all students, what happens for some groups of students within that, and then what do we do for a few to ensure that all students are successful. The bottom left is the dashboard by which our administrators, our teachers, and our staff can access that data readily. It doesn't take me long to put together the data that you see in front of you here. And in fact, it's just a simple couple of clicks put together by our Assessment and Accountability Department and Kelly Davies as their leader to really gather that information and make sure that that's out there so we can make database decisions for our students. Lastly, the bottom right-hand side, which is really hard to see, is actually one of 3 pages of a menu of the agendas of where all of our certified and many of our classified staff were at on October 5th. You can imagine the sheer volume of thousands of teachers and thousands of classified staff all across West Ada learning together toward common outcomes on the same day. So quite a celebration. And then lastly, just want to note your tremendous support. And again, I'm going to come back to this slide because what it talks to is the dedication of our educators in West Ada, our staff, our teachers, everybody in all departments across the sites, both operations and academics, to get the job done well for students. And what we do to reflect on improving each and every day, because good is not good enough for us. The bottom left-hand piece is a photo of what it takes to really get that job done and that co-teaching opportunity that you see there, and taking advantage of every single moment through engaging instruction through different modalities to make sure that what we see in the data is how we respond instructionally to students to ensure learning for all. And lastly, trustees, chair, trustees, Dr. Bubb, I'd be happy to stand for any questions that you may have or areas of clarification.
Any questions or comments? Trustee Buckman?
Thanks for putting this together. It's actually a really good timing. There was an article that just came out a day or two ago about the impact that COVID has had on academic standards nationwide and how, well, frankly, how low in nationwide scores have become. So it's really refreshing to see how well West Ada has been doing, and I really appreciate that presentation. I do have a couple of follow-up questions, though, if that's all right. The first is, it's really good to see growth levels in reading, and it's a very good cause. We do have cause to celebrate all of that wonderful green and yellow that's there in for our district. My question, though, is what is the goal target, or what is our goal or target for those in the red, and how often are those goals reviewed? I.e., like, what is the goal for, what kind of a percentage would we want to see for in the red there? Okay. And then, the other question is about the high school math standards. So it says that we review the algebra and the algebraic thinking for high school math, and does that with that, if a student is taking advanced math such as trigonometry or calculus, do we have the assumption that that student has already mastered all those skills in that section? Thanks.
Chair, trustee, appreciate the questions. The first response to that question about what do we do for students who are in the red, we respond systemically. What I mean by that is that we have interventions already designed to say if students are performing at this level, we're going to give you increased supports and opportunity to meet those grade level standards. So we're going to have core instruction, which is what you think of that like typical classroom setting, right? That larger group core instruction piece where teachers are differentiating for needs. And then what we're saying is if you're not at grade level standard, we're going to give you more time to meet that. And that's through interventions and through labs and opportunities within advisory, because we're not just going to hope that students make improvement. We're going to purposely design for that improvement out of red and into the yellow and into green. What would I like to see as far as a percentage within the red? 0 would be great. I do want to, and I say that through a vision and a system of really good people in West Ada who that is their mindset and they won't give up. I understand there's a reality to that, but not giving up on that is just as important. So the question about math standards, the assessment, the iReady assessment, first of all, here's what else I'd like to point out with West Ada and the high school common assessment. It's fairly uncommon across the nation to commonly assess in math and ELA high school because the standards are going to differentiate by content area and by class, okay? So you can imagine the challenges associated with that. So when we say in West Ada, all kids will be successful through the standards through high school math 3, we know that we're going to provide enrichment opportunities and courses, more advanced courses beyond that, but then also courses with standards that are supporting standards to get to high school math 3. So when we assess to those standards, that's part of that conversation that we're having as far as what students are taking and which ones don't. The test itself, the standards test out at about that range. So if they're in advanced courses beyond that, because we have a system to measure them in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, well, going all the way back, right? We can identify and say this student is ready to move forward in advanced classes or needs some additional support. So I hope that answered the question. The assessment itself tests out because it is diagnostic up until those particular standards at about high school math 3.
Thank you, it did. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Vice Chair Zuna?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Myers, I'm glad you're taking the time to celebrate because we should be. It's great. I think I remember hearing that when you get the results of the assessment, I feel like I'm echoing. But I think I remember hearing that we look at that not only district-wide, but we also look at it school by school, classroom by classroom, and down to the student level. Can you spend a little bit of time to let us know how you share the great successes that you identify? Because I'm sure there's big highlights in some areas. How do you get that information across to other schools? How do we build on some of the things that we're learning?
All right, Chair, Trustee, thank you for the question. The first is how do we share that? How do we communicate those successes? Well, we have a tool to do that, and then we intentionally plan for that. So what I mean by the tool to do that is, I pulled this screen back up, and on the bottom left-hand side, I honestly, I can't click on any of the links below it because it immediately pulls up individual student data that way. And so that's why I keep it at the dashboard here. But what you see on the left-hand side is a scroll down of multiple reports of data where a teacher, an administrator at a district level, the building level can click on that and go right down to the student level. It also provides reports from a school-wide perspective and a district-wide perspective. And so it's important for us within those collaborative teams to identify our successes. Like, what are we doing well, that good to great piece? Like, what's good? And what are we gonna do to move to great within that? And so having a system by which we celebrate our progress first is super important, which is also why not only identify the focus areas and the areas of challenge within the system, that's the rationale behind us meeting before the end of the school year. We want to identify those celebrations too. Now, let's not wait to the end to celebrate the successes. Let's celebrate those along the way so that we can build upon those and learn from those before we get to the end. So one, we have the system by which to celebrate that together as a larger team and as individual school teams, and our principals are fantastic about that, as well as our collaborative teams within those groups of educators and those teams. And then also, when we identify goals at a larger district level, at a school level, at a department level, and then at an individual school level, we talked about kid by kid and skill by skill. All of a sudden, we're celebrated at each one of those levels and really looking at not only cohorts of students or schools of students, but those individual students themselves and systems of celebration.
Any other comments or questions? Trustee Redford.
I'm just curious if you saw participation increase with moving the collaboration day from Friday to Wednesday? Wasn't that originally the intention, right, to see that increase? I'm just curious.
Chair, Trustee, we did. And significantly with those improvements, I do have that data set ready to go for November 14th and talking about some of the structures that way. So rather than taking a guess, I can tell you it was in the mid-20s, 25, 26%-ish. I'm waiting on one more data point and collecting because we did take attendance, obviously, within those through a feedback tool that we had. But again, the sessions were so full that an initial observation of that, the number of sessions we had provided, the number of seats available, we filled those to capacity, which was what was so great. But of course, right after that, we looked at, absentee and what that would look like as far as, because people get sick, things still happen on those particular Wednesdays, but it was far greater and a far better value for us to hold that day and much more fiscally responsible to hold on a Wednesday than a Friday, knowing that it does have an impact on our families and community because it's easier to plan for a 3-day weekend. The value of the Wednesday in there, though, was tremendous and was much more for our dollar on that day, systemically.
Any other questions or comments? Trustee Benetti.
Yeah, I just have a comment, and it's about this, again, which you've talked about multiple times, but it's the iReady diagnostic tool, because iReady actually refers to so many things. That iReady diagnostic tool that does that adaptive assessment during the course of the school year that we take multiple times, that allows teachers and parents to be able to course correct and to be able to receive, for my 2 daughters at the parent-teacher conferences, which was also fantastic, to get extremely detailed reports on specifically the things that my 2 daughters needed to help improve, and to have the teacher be very clearly aware of that, and to be able to then have the resources pointed directly to my children specifically, focus in on these areas, and then to be able to go out to tutor.com and to be able to focus in specifically on those areas and get that specific instruction through tutor.com, which presented, of course, for the district, was really remarkable. It gave me goosebumps. It's giving me goosebumps just now thinking about it, right? I do think, as Trustee Bacleone said, I do think that we still have some catch-up to do. So we shouldn't have rose-colored glasses on, right? We're all still below where we started 2 years ago. But boy, that trend line looks great. And I know that if we continue to accelerate that way, and to continue to provide these tools that touches upon that new bit of information that you started off with, which is how we're comparing to other districts within Idaho based upon the ISAT. And that where we are in terms of our education value provided per dollar spent is absolutely extraordinary. And it's a testament to you and the teachers and the staff and the management and everybody working together and the parents to help provide that, which is just without equal. So can we rest? No, absolutely not. And I think you made that clear. We still have a lot of work to do, and I think particularly some of those high school reds, need to be reduced and turned to yellow and eventually to green. But the things that we're doing in providing the value per dollar spent here in West Ada, it just continues to just really impress me. So that's just my comment. Well done. Keep it up. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. Next, we have Nick Smith, our Deputy Superintendent, who's going to go over Policy 203.02, Order of Business.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Trustees and Superintendent Bubb. I'm here to present the third reading of proposed revisions to Policy 203.02, which is our Order of Business Regular Meeting Policy. As a reminder, the recommended changes to this policy came out of our board summit, where we identified a need to revise the order of the agenda items as they were outlined in the policy. As we worked on those revisions, it was determined that by the policy committee that it would be best just to remove the order of the agenda items and simply focus on the agenda items that will generally be included in a meeting. So the edits also address how public comments will be received, and then based on board comments from the first reading, we did add patron input related to agenda items to the list of items. And then we also, based on the policy committee discussion, we've also updated the title of the policy from Order of Business Regular Meetings to Agenda Regular Meetings, and have removed the section related to special meetings since this policy directly and specifically addresses regular meetings. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions? No, this is great. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think with that, we will take a 9-minute break till 7:30, if everybody's okay with that. All right.
Chair, I've got you up. Yeah, I won. Oh, okay.
Snack break.
All right, we're going to come back into session at 7:30. With that, we'll move forward with Marcus Myers. He's going to give us a policy 602.21, selection of library resources, and this is a first reading.
All right, Madam Chair, trustees, Superintendent Dr. Bubb, bring before you tonight two first readings of policy 602.21, the selection of learning resources, and the administrative regulations behind that, and then policy 602.22. I'm going to flip between both of these, the reconsideration of supplemental learning and library resources, and the administrative regulations behind that. I'm going to flip back and forth, and I apologize for that because I think to effectively communicate the rationale behind the revisions, the committee work behind the revisions, and some of the changes, it's good to talk about both together in that way. First, I want to extend a word of appreciation to our librarians in West Ada. These educators strive to create hubs of literacy and a love of books in our schools. Our school librarians provide a place for students to access an array of books and resources, and it's the place where reading and books are celebrated, and they're special places of learning for our students and families. I also want to thank the number of staff, administrators, parents and guardians, and patrons who have provided input on this first reading that comes before you this evening on both 602.21 and 602.22. Knowing the importance our libraries have within our school community, both in the library and in our classroom libraries, West Ada began examining our procurement, the purchasing of, and reconsideration of library resources, policies, and procedures. In February of this last year, 2022, district leadership, building administrators, and librarians at the elementary, middle, and high school levels started examining and revising the process by which we address procurement, or the purchasing, and reconsideration review of library resources. Teams of librarians, administrators, and teachers were called upon for their valued input and continued analysis of both the policy and the processes. In March of 22, processes for the procurement of library resources were revised to include an opportunity for public review and input prior to the purchase and addition of library resources into circulation. This includes both classroom libraries and the library that we would typically define it as. This revised process has proved successful given our patrons and staff were provided an opportunity through our district website for both the purchasing and review of existing resources. However, this revised process does not delay the selection and procurement of these books by more than 10 days through which librarians and classroom teachers request the purchase thereof. In spring of 2022, draft policy revision for both 602.21 and 602.22 took place with the guidance of Amy White. This fall, teams of district administrators, building administrators, librarians, teachers, and parents at all levels met to provide input on both draft policies. After their valued input was received, significant revisions were made to both policies, resulting in the first reading of the two drafts that I bring before you this evening. Bless you. In this first reading of draft 602.21, you will notice the most significant revision was to remove the processes from the policies. As a result, the administrative regulation of processes by which library resources, both for library and classrooms, were separated from policy with the purpose of increasing clarity and communication with staff and patrons. The policy revisions and administrative regulation reflect the change in processes last spring as previously discussed. To sum that up, the revisions to the policy match the revisions to the processes by which we get there. In the first reading of draft 602.22, you will notice the most significant revisions were similar in that processes were removed from policies and are now communicated through administrative regulation. Additionally, vague terms and timeframes were better clarified. The resulting goals of revisions for this policy are to better define the process, shared vocabulary, timeline, and communication to patrons and staff, by which, if a concern is shared, we respond as a system. Additional revisions have already been noted by both standing policy committee members. These revisions will be considered and updated for the second reading that we'll bring before you on November 14th. With that, Chair, trustees, I welcome any input for revision and considerations moving forward.
Are there any comments or questions? Vice Chair Zuna.
Mr. Myers, I have a question on the reconsideration procedures document. In there, it talks about, somewhere in there, it says that we can only have the same number of district staff as we have parents, and it lists out what district staff are part of that committee. And I guess my question is, do we need all of those district staff? Because what happens if we are short on the parent side, since those are parents that are selected by the board?
I will look into that process, and we'll have an update for you at the second reading. I think what we'd look at is reconsideration by reconsideration, including the number of staff that we would need to match the number of parents and patrons on that committee as well. And so that could vary just based on the number who come forward that way. But we do have a standing staff committee as well as additional staff willing to serve on that committee if need be when we move forward. And so we would just need to match that up with the number of patrons or parents who are in that committee.
Thank you. And then I have one other question on the policy where it defines operational days. We don't use operational days in the policy. That's all procedural. Do you want that definition in policy? Does that definition belong in policy? Is it important to have it there?
I will run that through legal counsel to better define those operational days. The rationale behind the operational days in there was to communicate more clearly the what if of feedback received from a parent, guardian, or patron on a resource right before something like a break.
Right.
Right. So we don't have the staff available because they're off contract during that time frames. And so how do we better communicate the timeline that we've established within the policy? That's where the operational days came in, so we could be more clear on that. But I'll be happy to follow up with Amy and redefine that better for you on November 14th.
Thanks. I can appreciate the need to pull out procedure. Where I get stuck sometimes is what belongs in policy and what belongs in procedure. And I think I just still need to work through that. Thank you.
Chair, trustee, we'd be happy to reconsider that as a committee as well. And I think the benefit of the administrative regulation, when we talked about that with the committees involved in that, is that it really is a step-by-step procedure about once input is received from parent or guardian or patron, here's that timeline that we need to follow and adhere to, rather than before where the timeline was a little more vague in terms of that. And so we just want to make sure that as a system we're doing exactly what we say we're going to do within those committees, within the timeline that we specified.
Any other comments or questions? All right, thank you so much for going over those.
Thank you.
All right, Nick Smith, you're up again. Our Deputy Superintendent will cover Policy 501.90, student transfers, and this is also a first reading.
Good evening again, Madam Chair, trustees, and Superintendent Bubb. As stated, I am here to talk to you a little bit about Policy 501.9, student transfers. As part of our efforts to streamline our policies by removing procedures from policy, the Policy Committee is recommending the removal of Policy 501.9 student transfers, Policy 501.92 dual enrollment, and Policy 604 school choice. The relevant policy information from each of these policies is being combined into a new Policy 501.9 that we are going to title Student Enrollment and Enrollment Options. Due to the fact that much of the content from these old policies is procedural in nature, much of the content will be moved to 5 different administrative regulations, which have been given to you. You have access to in Assembly for your viewing. The new Policy 501.9 outlines the different enrollment options available to families, including traditional enrollment, in-district transfers, school choice, dual enrollment, and open enrollment. The new policy also provides definitions related to these enrollment options, and articulates that families choosing any other option other than attending the school in their attendance area are not guaranteed transportation. The policy also will outline how extracurricular activities can be impacted by the different enrollment options, and provides clarity on how this policy will not impact a student's rights under McKinney-Vento, IDEA, or Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. And we have included an equal opportunity provision in this policy. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have related to the policy revisions.
All right, any comments or questions? Trustee Bachland?
Deputy Superintendent Smith, can you go back to that the previous screen, the green one? So under transportation, any student participating in enrollment option other than the school in the attendance area in which their parents' guardians reside is not guaranteed transportation. I noticed there's not an exception here for schools of choice, that there are many that do not reside in that area of they reside in. So I don't know if that's something that needs to be included there or not. But.
Chair Frazier and Trustee Baclean, this, we can definitely go back and take a look at that. I think that would be addressed in our school of choice section. If not, so we'll go ahead and take a look at that for the second reading. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Zuna.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I'm curious, if a parent was going to go out and submit for a in-district transfer, open enrollment, any of these options, is this where they would go to get information and what the parent would do? Or is there actually a document out there that, like a parent form to submit the materials? Do they use the policy and procedure, I guess what I'm asking, or is there a different place for them to go look?
Chair Frazier and Trustee Ozuna, so this, a parent may reference the procedural documents, but there are actual forms that they would fill out that they submit for that open enrollment or the dual enrollment, whatever type of enrollment they would be seeking. There are forms that they would fill out for that process. And actually, the district is going through the process of putting that through in an online system that they would submit that through.
One follow-up on that. Do those forms have the timelines on them? Because when I was reviewing this, one of the things that I saw is that the procedural document does a good job at outlining the deadlines, and that's not as clear, I don't think, in the policy. Is that outlined in the form?
Chair Frazier and Trustee Ozuna, so the forms do have the deadlines and the criteria for when it has to be submitted and whatnot. Those deadlines are purposefully put in the procedures because those are the step-by-step of this is when you have to do what, each step and to meet the criteria and the requirements. But they are also included in the forms and the applications and things that people actually submit.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure if a parent was going to go through this process that it's really clear for them what their timelines are. Thank you.
You bet.
Any other comments or questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, this takes us to the action portion of our meeting, and the only policy that we've gone over is policy 203.02, order of business, that is up for vote. Does anyone have a motion on that? Trustee Benetti.
I move that we approve policy 203.02, order of business, as presented by the Deputy Superintendent Nick Smith.
Is there a second? Trustee Bachman?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries 5-0. At this point, we'll move into a work session in the Grand Teton Room. We have room for 6 patrons in there, so anyone is invited to attend. And if you'd rather stay in here, that will also be shown on the screen behind us. Thank you.
Can you hear us? Yes. We're good. Great. Okay, I'm going to hear.
Okay. So this, we want to start by walking through kind of our plan and our strategic plan over the next extended period of time. I think it's important to kind of go back how we ended up to where we're at today. And part of the process was we started out by surveying patrons. We then held small focus groups. Several district employees then shadowed students and shadowed employees within the district. What I mean by that is I shadowed a student at Rocky Mountain High School, just kind of find out what their lived experience was. Talk to them about their lived experience, in a class with one of our students, and really try to get an idea of what they felt like their experience was within West Data. With that, we kind of put this entire plan together. A lot of different staff members have had part of that. About 7,000 people responded to the survey, so that was a big piece of it. A lot of different staff members within this group have had different says in this. The focus groups were comprised of, we had staff focus groups, we broke up the staff into classified staff, certificated staff, administrative staff focus groups. And then we all came in as a team and discussed what we wanted is a clear plan that put us in, was really reflective of what our community wants, and where our community wants to see our school district go. So that was this has never been done in West Data, so we want to make sure we have something out there that we're very transparent on where we want to go, and everybody knows this is the goals, both short and long-term goals for West Data School District. So I want to say thanks to Marcus and to Nikki, who have been a big part of this process and have reviewed a lot of documents and sat through a lot of conference calls to make this happen, to get where we're at. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but before you do, I'll just say this document has been broken up into several different pieces, really so we can look at just little small pieces, take a lot of feedback back, we'll come back, we will then read it in a formal board meeting outside of this to make sure that everything is finalized. We will have all say on finalization. We will, meaning we West State School District Board will have final say in that. I don't know if you want to say anything about left anything out or that you. No, I don't believe so. Okay. So, just as an open work session, we can kind of walk through beginning. We left the mission as it stands. I think one of the things about what do you want to accomplish from this work session? Like if we leave here in 30 minutes, an hour, I don't want to take. I'd love to get your feedback on that first piece. So just direct feedback on direct feedback. Yeah, absolutely. And will there be a process or just all just throw it out when you like or?
I'm going to take notes, and then at the end of the work session, I'll collect the packet that you just gave me so that we can continue as we go through the chunking and maintain notes.
So I'll kind of give you a brief of where we ended up on mission. Mission statement has been a mission statement of West Data. One of the advantages of having a team of people that have been here for a long, long time is understanding that everybody within West Data really not only believes in, but has memorized and has set apart West Data is preparing today's students for tomorrow's challenges. We felt like we didn't want to change that too drastically. I'd love to get feedback on that, or on our vision, or our core values, which we'll develop through this process. So we can open it up to discussion. We can go one by one.
I think the mission statement's great. I love writing it. It's easy. It's clear. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm plus on the mission statement. I think it's nearly flawless. It's concise. It's well written. It's encapsulates everything we're trying to do. I don't know if everybody wants to sort of call it on mission statement first. I think the thing that was sort of missing for me and was strategic, I mean, like really focus in on this, right? Sure, the vendor. And I was, frankly, I was a little disappointed. And so I think that, understanding what those tomorrow's challenges are and having us really think about that vision to accomplish mitigating those challenges, really preparing our students for those challenges, because it's not obvious to me that they are what they used to be. And I think that potentially could change a lot of the things that follow from it, right? Is that everything follows from the mission statement. That's the sort of vision of everything that we're trying to accomplish. And so I love the mission statement. It's just so awesome. But then just where do we take it from there? So anyway, just put it out there. So just to ask questions, I love the question, but I wonder, how do we know tomorrow's challenges? Because tomorrow, that's what I was talking about the vision is, we could specifically identify tomorrow's, and then life would be easy. Sure. If we could identify that, and I think that is the great ask, and that's why I think when we talk about the vision, is we want to prepare students that whatever is thrown at them tomorrow, they're prepared. Right. Well, so, and I don't think that's necessarily the job. The district is working every day and trying to execute. That comment is really from the strategic plan. So please don't take it there. But that's it. You're trying to express vision. By definition, you're visioning towards the future, right? You're trying to say this is how we think things are going to be. If we want this, this is how we want things to look in the future. By definition, that's a vision statement. Yeah. So, are you going to be wrong? Sure, sometimes you're going to be wrong. But I think that forward thinking and all of the ancillary thinking that goes along with it is saying, okay, and you can also identify some broader trends, right? So, and some of this is going to potentially be controversial, right? But I think that you can make a strong argument that the value provided by higher education doesn't hold as much sway as it used to, right? And I think that there are a lot of parents, and I'm just going to put myself in here, myself included, right? Whereas when I went to school, there was never any question of what the goal was higher education. And now that's not even necessarily something that I'm having a discussion with my kids, right? And I'm still saying, that's the current plan, and it's expanding out to some of the other opportunities. And I think that if you put that out there as a sort of where we think that the broader trends are going, that potentially that the marginal value of higher education isn't what it was on a historical basis. What does that mean for CTE and for all the other things that we do? So then that strategic statement that follows, right? Derek said something that I thought was just so, just capsulated in one sentence that was just wow, that's really good. It's not like we're not preparing for higher education or the CTE. We're doing it at the same time, right? And so giving that broad range of options, not tracking students too early, to give like that was wow, that's really strategic. That's really insightful. That's really powerful to me, right? And I think that there's other trends. Like if you look at historically the way that education was delivered, we have this body of canonical knowledge, and our job is to impart this canonical knowledge onto the students, right? And just getting the information, reference material from library, that was actually a hard task, right? I'm sure we all spent many hours in the library trying to go and gather information. And now we have the entirety of the world's information right here. And the challenge is not finding it, the challenge is filtering. How can I determine good information from bad? Right? How can I get that skill set to be able to handle a world where I'm being bombarded and overloaded with information, right? And my job is to intelligently process what's valid and what's not. Look, and I don't know the answers to these questions, right? But when this came up as part of the policy review committee, and feedback to Ed was, I hope we can have a session, because I think these are really meaty, thoughtful questions. So I really deeply appreciate that we're taking the time, because I think it's really important. And, to the extent that we can kind of see where that world is headed, particularly in some of these trends that are now, some of them are fairly established and seem to be growing. Do we change things? Maybe not. Maybe it's, say she goes, like my parents did with me. Higher education, that's the only choice, and but maybe not. So anyway, I
philosophy class dedicated just to the mission statement. We can just hammer this out.
Done. Did you have other feedback?
My feedback is going to be significantly different from what David was sharing, because for me, there's such a wide pool of goals and vision that you can pull from. So essentially, when I look at something like this, like I'm looking at it from a much more cynical point of view, because that's essentially my job, right? And I mean, there are some things that I can say about it, but like I'd rather leave that to people who have more of a visionary, who are more on that. So I would love to be instead to review it and to make sure it is as professional and as consistent as possible. So having said that, my first question would be: is there a style guide that goes along? Does the district in any way have a style guide that governs their that governs their documents?
We have brand standards that document font colors, font size, hex codes, and all of that. We do have district brand standards.
Okay. So I guess what I'm referring to also is like grammatical and or writing standards as part of that. Besides the document, the visual standards, like written standards that we go by, i.e., do we use an Oxford comma, for example, or stuff like that?
No, we don't. Outside of brand standards, no.
I'm not saying that we do, but yes, are there grammatical errors here? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where we will use your expertise to say, let's make sure before this is published.
So I'm just saying that, like, yeah, I'd like to think on a different role than what perhaps David would like to embrace, and I think that would at least give two different trustees we could be a little more connected.
With the focus groups, did they go through the mission, vision, or core values?
So yes, and they also collected a lot of qualitative data, and then did analysis on that qualitative data to be able to come up. So to adjust these as needed, it took comments, notes. I ran those through a teacher group, a administrative group, a parent group, a student group. So we ran through a bunch of groups that either develop these or they're already in development. Ask. So that's how we ended up where we're at.
I personally like in the vision statement, I also like where you use the word member because it applies all of us and the role that we all share with our students. I think the whole picture is great. Which is the same thing. And the West Virginia School District with the core values too, because I think that's the way to really tie it in.
Yeah, I'll comment for a second on Mr. Benedict's comments. And I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I think our biggest challenge is 40% of the jobs that our kids are going to go jump into don't exist. So how do we prepare? And I think it becomes this bigger picture. Do we prepare them for a job, or do we prepare them with a skill? And I think more and more we're preparing kids with skills that can translate into whatever job that might be something, right? If you think back to when I was in school,
do you think that that's missing in here?
It's touched upon. And look, I just may need to reset my expectations, which is perfect, right? I mean, it's just one hesitant. I'm also accustomed to a different type of vision statement, a different type of goal, right? So that is something that I also need to set. When I do look at this, though, I do think there's a high, as you would expect on learning and application, right? And you refer skills, and you refer skills, and you refer to that breadth of the things that they're going to need to be successful in life. Because at the end of the day, it's really, you want to create outstanding citizens. That's more than just people that are smart and academically prepared. They're prepared for the world in general, right? And so, we talked about financial literacy. Or maybe it's in here, or it's later on here. It is like, okay, that is something that doesn't necessarily translate to. I mean, you could obviously talk about in this part of student success. It sort of implies, sure, academics, learning success, right? Development is, this is the closest one that I see. Development, I don't know that development is the words dying up, but I know we're trying to do alliteration, so I'm fine. See growth as independent thinkers and learners, empower one another to meet these challenges of our world. Probably comes the closest to what I'm talking about in terms of getting them prepared for a very different world on which most of us are correct. Judging age, well, basically all of us, right? This generation is facing a whole different set of challenges. And so that's kind of what I'm
On the first page, are we pretty comfortable with that? The board, or want changes there? Isn't this supposed to be about my challenges?
Yeah, we'll take feedback, and I think we chat a little bit more. Do you have some specific changes you'd like to make? No, we shouldn't do editing as far as I'm concerned. It's just really is, where broadly people thinking, that's what I'm running. Okay. If that resonates with people, great. And if it doesn't, it's just my group.
Is there anything else we want to discuss with this? Yeah. Let's start reading.
So this is actually an interesting piece. The vision statement is hidden under 37 documents. It's listed in a SIP, is that correct, Marcus? But it's very difficult to find. I think as part of this, we want to highlight what our vision is, what our mission and our vision is. Our mission is an unsellable document. Our vision is not. So I think starting, and that's actually one of the things I do like about using West End School District, is I would like this whole piece to be something that really drives forward rather than something that lives on a document that we got about. That's it. No, it's the intention that will also remove that will remove the philosophy statement, so that we have just a value statement, a mission statement, and a vision statement, and not a philosophy statement.
Yeah, so I think our plan will be once this is approved, then policy that reflects all of this will be revised.
So then I will have one more comment, which is that thing that I really like about our philosophies is that it touches upon all of our constituents. It touches upon students, it touches upon staff, it touches upon parents. Right? It has a very specific sentence that shouldn't teach. And I think for what it's worth, it may be worth a lot to split, classified staff and administrative staff, right? Or just make that differentiation. But it really touches upon all those constituencies that make the district so successful. Right? And so I'd love to see that continue in some form. Okay, maybe it's part of the vision statement. Maybe it becomes different, because obviously we talk about it in the remainder of the document as well. But that's one of the great things about that policy 100.1 right now. It's just like, it's right there, all of the constituencies, one sentence. judged. So when I think of a vision statement, it's a vision of the future. So it's not really talking about the constituencies that make it happen. It's like, this is the way that I see the future going. This is where we want to be in 5 years, 10 years, right? And most of it's corporate, right? We want to be the number 2 market share, right? So that's why I'm saying it's not analogies, right? But, and it didn't really fit his philosophy. That is an encapsulation of what makes the district great. Like each of the parties working in partnership with one another and supporting one another to the success of the district and the students, which is certainly reflected in this every member, right? But it called out, like, specifically. And so, so maybe I don't know. I don't know how it fits with what we're trying to say here, but because I do believe the mission statement, like one sentence mission, awesome, really good, right? The vision, I have a different way that that's formulated, but maybe it'll be a vision statement, right? But then those components of, well, anyway, you hear what I'm talking about.
So, are you stuck on the word in that policy? Let's go to that policy just for a second. Are you stuck on the word philosophy, or what could we call it? Our guiding principle?
We could call it, a rosemary a handy other name. So I don't have a particular.
You like the verbiage. You don't know
love the content.
The title being philosophy.
Yeah, it's kind of like mission, vision, philosophy. Seem to get a little, then underneath something else.
No, but I could see it being guiding principle.
Yeah.
Mission.
Oh, yeah, principle.
Vision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right. Something like that. Yeah. And how do people feel about that? Sort of. I mean, I can pull it up real quick.
So right now, that really becomes philosophy, mission, vision, continuous improvement plan, beliefs. That's how that policy unfolds right now.
Yeah.
So,
I think the feedback I sent to you was mission statement first, and then this.
I'd be happy. It says, we see a school district in which all students receive a quality education emphasizing skills, knowledge, and character development that enable them to reach their potential and become contributing members of society. Our school will produce responsible, productive students capable of adapting to a changing, diverse world. We see a school district in which all employees continue to improve their skills, knowledge, and procedures to meet the needs of all learners. We will provide an environment that dignifies the individual, focuses on rigorous and relevant instruction, and encourages continuous improvement. We will work as a team to establish a safe, clean, inviting atmosphere within facilities that are conducive to quality education. We see a community of well-informed citizens who support educational excellence and work in partnership with the school community to achieve quality education results for all students.
Those are all short meetings.
You're not kidding.
And I like how this reads a lot of philosophy statement, or is it the vision?
That was philosophy statement, yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of reads like a vision.
I thought the same thing. When you first started reading it, I was like, oh, did we grab this directly from that? Maybe there's a couple pieces that I didn't read in here that weren't included there.
I do think we pulled some of it from there.
From there, yeah. I think this is all of that. I don't think it needs to change, but that's just me. Any other thoughts? I also one more thing. You talked about the vision statement being where we see things going, and in our vision statement here, we say we are committed. So that's like the now and not the future to me, just in looking at it that way. That's just necessarily suggesting word change there, but. Well, if we're committed to it, then you are working at, student success. So.
Yeah, if I'm committed to run a marathon, so I practice every single day. I mean, it could be I'm committed to run a marathon. I think it could be here now. I would feel just as we work through that, if it was something you came up with some future tense, we are going to at some point enhance student success, right?
Yeah.
metrics.
And Alex, until we go to this place already. I was gonna say, companies spend days, right, weeks working through. Any other discussion?
So as we break this up, yeah, we will address little pieces like this so that way you could read it in whole, you could read it in part. Hey, I wish we could do this section over here. We want to get that feedback. Go ahead and make adjustments.
You're working, you will be right. All right, next part of the meeting is executive session.
Do you need to formally close the work session?
Right. Yes, ma'am. Question. So looking for a motion to enter executive session for Idaho Code 74-2061B. Consider the evaluation of spending of your complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent or public school student. Is there a motion? Trustee Gannon.
I move that we enter executive session for Idaho Code 74-206 sub 1 sub B to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent, or public school student.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the Board of Trustees will recess from public meeting into executive session in the manner and for the purpose authorized by section 74-206 Idaho Code to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent, or public school student as set forth in section 74-201B. We'll do individual votes here. Trustee Benetti.
Aye.
Aye. Trustee Redford. Aye. Vice Chair Zina. Aye. Chair votes aye. Motion carries 5-0. So the board will enter executive session at 8.
Okay, the board will resume open session. It is 8:28. I will now entertain a motion to ratify the administration's action to place employee B on administrative and to approve continuation of employee B on administrative leave. Is there a motion? Trustee Redford.
I move that the board ratify the administration's action to place employee B on administrative leave and to approve continuation of employee B on administrative leave.
All right, is there a second? Trustee Bachleon?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, are there any future agenda items? No? For the good of the order, just so everyone's aware, ISBA will have their annual convention, which is the Idaho School Board Association, up in Coeur d'Alene, November 9th through the 11th, and we have multiple trustees that'll be in attendance at that. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn? Trustee Redford.
Motion to adjourn, pretty please.
Second, please, with sugar on top.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Have a lovely evening.